I want to add that although my soul was already in the rays of his love, traces of my past tortures remain on my body for 2 days. A deathly pale face and bloodshot eyes. Jesus alone knows what I suffered. What I have written is very poor compared to the reality. I cannot put it in words. It seemed to me that I had come back from the other world. I feel an aversion for everything that is created. I snuggle to the heart of God like a baby to its mother's breasts. I see everything differently now. I am conscious of what the Lord by one single word has done in my soul, and I live by it. I shudder at the recollection of this past torture. I would not have believed that one could suffer so, if I had not gone through it myself. This is a completely spiritual suffering. However, in all these sufferings and struggles, I was not omitting Holy Communion. When it seemed to me that I should not communicate, I went before Holy Communion to the directress and told her that I could not approach the sacrament, because it seemed to me that I should not do so. But she would not permit me to omit Holy Communion, so I went, and I understood now that it was only obedience that saved me. The directress herself told me later that my trials had passed quickly, and is solely because you were obedient, sister, and it was through the power of obedience that you struggled through this so bravely. It is true that it was the Lord himself who brought me out of this torment, but my fidelity to obedience did please him. Though these are frightening things, the soul should not be too fearful, because God will never test us beyond what we are able to bear. On the other hand, he may never send us such sufferings, but I write this because if it pleases the Lord to let a soul pass through such sufferings, it should not be afraid, but, in so far as this depends on the soul itself, it should remain faithful to God. God will do a soul no harm, because he is love itself, and in this unfathomable love that called it into being. However, when I was so tormented, I myself did not understand this. O my God, I have come to know that I am not of this earth. You, O Lord, have poured this profound awareness into my soul. My communion is more with heaven than with earth, though I in no way neglect my duties. During those times I had no spiritual director. I was without any kind of guidance whatsoever. I begged the Lord, but he did not give me a director. Jesus himself has been my master from the days of my infancy up to the present moment. He accompanied me across all the deserts and through all dangers. I see clearly that God alone could have led me through such great perils unharmed, with my soul untarnished and passing victoriously through all difficulties, immense though they were. Going out, later on, the Lord did give me a director. After such sufferings, the soul finds itself in a state of great purity of spirit and very close to God. But I should add that during these spiritual torments it is close to God, but it is blind. The soul's vision is plunged into darkness, and though God is nearer than ever to the soul which is suffering, the whole secret consists in the fact that it knows nothing of this. The soul in fact declares that not only has God abandoned it, but it is the object of his hatred. How grave is the malady of the eyes of the soul which, struck by divine light, claims that there is no light, whereas it is so intense that it blinds her. Yet, despite all, I learned later that God is closer to a soul at such moments than at others, because it would not be able to endure these trials with the help of ordinary grace alone. God's omnipotence and an extraordinary grace must be active here, for otherwise the soul would succumb at the first blow. O Divine Master, what happens in my soul is your work alone. You, O Lord, are not afraid to place the soul on the edge of a terrible precipice, where it stands, alarmed and filled with fright, and then you call it back again to yourself. These are your imponderable mysteries. When, in the midst of these interior torments, I tried to accuse myself in confession of the smallest trifles, the priest was surprised that I had not committed graver faults, and he said to me, "If you are as faithful as this to God during these sufferings, this in itself is evidence to me that God is sustaining you, sister, with a special grace, and it is a good thing that you do not understand this. It is a strange thing, nevertheless, that confessors could neither understand me nor set my mind at peace concerning these matters, until I met Father Andres and later on Father Sepoko. A few words about confession and confessors. I shall speak only of what I have experienced and gone through within my own soul. There are three things which hinder the soul from drawing profit from confession in these exceptional moments. The first thing, when the confessor has little knowledge of extraordinary ways and shows surprise if a soul discloses to him the great mysteries worked in it by God. Such surprise frightens the sensitive soul, and it notices that the confessor hesitates to give his opinion, and if it does notice this, it will not be set at peace, but will have even more doubts after confession than before, because it will sense that the confessor is trying to set it at peace, while he himself is uncertain. Or else, as has happened to me, a confessor, unable to penetrate some of the soul's mysteries, refuses to hear the confession, showing a certain fear when the soul approaches the confessional. How can a soul in this state obtain peace in the confessional when it has become so oversensitive to every word of the priest? In my opinion, at times of such special trials sent by God to a soul, the priest, if he does not understand the soul, should direct it to some other experienced and well-instructed confessor, or else he himself should seek light in order to give the soul what it needs, instead of downrightly denying it confession, for in this way he is exposing the soul to a great danger, and more than one soul may well leave the road along with God, which God wanted it to journey. This is a matter of great importance, for I have experienced it myself. I myself began to waver despite special gifts from God, and even though God himself reassured me, I have nevertheless always wanted to have the Church's seal as well. The second thing, the confessor does not allow the soul to express itself frankly and shows impatience. The soul then falls silent and does not say everything it has to say, and by this profits nothing. It profits even less when the confessor, without really knowing the soul, proceeds to put it to the test. Instead of helping the soul, he does it harm. The soul is aware that the confessor does not know it, because he did not allow it to lay itself open fully as regards both its graces and its misery, and so the test is ill adapted. I have been submitted to some test at which I have had to laugh. I will express this better thus. The confessor is the doctor of the soul, but how can a doctor prescribe a suitable remedy if he does not know the nature of the sickness? Never will he be able to do so, for either the remedy will not produce the desired effect, or else it will be too strong, and will aggravate the illness, and sometimes, God forbid, even bring about it death. I am speaking from my own experience because, in certain instances, it was the Lord himself who directly sustained me. The third thing, it also happens sometimes that the confessor makes light of little things. There is nothing little in the spiritual life. Sometimes a seemingly insignificant thing will disclose a matter of great consequence, and will be for the confessor a beam of light which helps him to get to know the soul. Many spiritual undertones are concealed in little things. A magnificent building will never rise if we reject the insignificant bricks. God demands great purity of certain souls, and so he gives them a deeper knowledge of their own misery. Illuminated by light from on high, the soul can better know what pleases God and what does not. Sin depends upon the degree of knowledge and light that exists within the soul. The same is true of imperfections. Although the soul knows that it is only sin in the strict sense of the term, which pertains to the sacrament of penance, yet these petty things are of great importance to a soul which is tending to sanctity, and the confessor must not treat them lightly. The patience and kindness of the confessor open the way to the innermost secrets of the soul. The soul unconsciously, as it were, reveals the abysmal depth and feels stronger and more resistant. It fights with greater courage and tries to do things better because it knows it must buy an account of them. I will mention one more thing regarding the confessor. It is his duty to occasionally put to the test, to try, to exercise, to learn whether he is dealing with straw, with iron, or with pure gold. Each of these three types of souls needs different kinds of training. The confessor must, and this is absolutely necessary, form a clear judgment of each soul in order to know how heavy a burden it can carry at certain times, in certain circumstances, or in particular situations. As for myself, it was only later on, after many negative experiences, that when I saw that I was not understood, I no longer laid bare my soul or allowed my peace to be disturbed. But this happened only when all these graces had already been submitted to the judgment of a wise, well-instructed, and experienced confessor. Now I know what to go by in certain cases. And again, I would like to say 3 words to the soul that is determined to strive for sanctity and to derive fruit, that is to say, benefit from confession. First, complete sincerity and openness. Even the holiest and wisest confessor cannot forcibly pour into the soul what he desires if it is not sincere and open. An insincere, secretive soul risks great danger in the spiritual life, and even the Lord Jesus himself does not give himself to such a soul on a higher level, because he knows it would not derive no benefit from these special graces. Second word, humility. A soul does not benefit as it should from the sacrament of confession if it is not humble. Pride keeps it in darkness. The soul neither knows how nor is it willing to probe with precision the depths of its own misery. It puts on a mask and avoids everything that might bring it recovery. Third word, obedience. A disobedient soul will win no victory, even if the Lord Jesus himself in person were to hear its confession. The most experienced confessor will be of no help whatsoever to such a soul. The disobedient soul exposes itself to great misfortunes. It will make no progress towards perfection, nor will it succeed in the spiritual life. God lavishes his graces most generously upon the soul, but it must be an obedient soul.